Hello there, golfing fans. Welcome back to the channel, proudly sponsored by betting.co.uk. So it's that time of the week again where I'm just here to bring you my golf selections for this week's tour events. Now, I was going to have selections for both the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour, but I've been struggling to get my head around the PGA Tour event out in Houston this weekend. So all I'm going to do is focus on the DP World Tour in this episode, and hopefully we can get ourselves into the winner's enclosure. It's been a couple of disappointing weeks for the golf selections, but I'll be looking to get us back on track, of course, this week. But the most important thing is that we are still in profit for the 2024 season. And of course, last year we were at 948 points for the entirety of 2023. So there's a long way to go to reach that milestone, but I've got a good couple of selections for this week's tour event. And hopefully we can get ourselves back into the winner's enclosure. Okay, so just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I really do appreciate you tuning in. And if you'd like to come over and join my group chat, there is a link in the description below for you where you'll get loads of extra content, bonus footage and things like that for the upcoming weeks. And you will also get a full list of my selections rather than just a couple like you will in each of these episodes. Also, if you're new to the channel and you're able to do so, if you can click subscribe to this video, that does actually really help me out a great deal. And by doing so, you will then get notified every week when my selections go live in one of these episodes. Okay, anything else? Oh yes, courtesy of Ladbrokes. If you bet £5, you can have £20 of free bets using the link in the description below from betting.co.uk, but that is for new customers only. Right then, let's move on to this week's golf. And this week we have the Hero Indian Open at DLF Golf and Country Club. 7,416 yards, a par 72, a very, very good golf course with very, very fast greens. These are going to be right up there on the stint meter. And this is going to be a really good test of golf. Last year's winner was Marcel Siem on 14 under, but there were only 3 players that reached double digits last year. That was Marcel on 14 under, Yannick Paul at 13 under, and Joust Luitan at 12 under. And if you look at those 3 names, very, very well suited to this sort of course as well. Very tough course at the same time. And the last 4 scores, winning scores, have been 14 under, 9 under, 11 under, and 10 under. There were only 7 bogey-free rounds in the entirety of the 4 days. 11 of the 18 holes played over par, 4th highest cut mark of the tour last season, and hole 14 was the hardest of the week when Marcel Siem himself, the winner, was even 3 over on that hole. So don't worry if your player starts making a few bogeys. It's going to happen this week. As I said, there are only 7 bogey-free rounds in the entirety of the 4 days of the tournament. And if you look at the field size of about 125, then you're looking at about 500 out of about 500 rounds. Only 7 of these were bogey free. So don't be too concerned if there's a few bogeys out there. This is all about patience, good iron play, good approach play. And you are going to need someone that can putt well this week too, because the greens are rapid here, very, very undulating. If you go back and watch Marcel Siem win it last year, he put on a masterful performance with his putter. And I think you're going to need someone who's going to do the same again this week. For those that are into the stats, the ones to focus on this week, as I've just mentioned, a good putt-in and good wedge play. You really do need someone that's going to be finding the right spots on these greens. Similar to last week at the Singapore Open, you will benefit by finding the right spots on these greens. So trajectory is definitely something that I would want to be trying to find in my player. Someone's got a controlled trajectory combined with good distance control, because they're simply the players that are going to be setting themselves up for birdie. And then, of course, obviously, it's about minimizing those bogeys throughout the 4 days as well. So good putt and a good wedge play, to me, are the vital ingredients for the winner this week. Now, there were some players that initially came to mind for this tournament. There's always a few, as soon as the tournament comes into my mind, there's always a few that sort of crop up instantly that I think, this player will be well suited. Doesn't always turn out to be that way, but I'm just going to highlight a few of those for you this week into why they're not actually being put up as selections too. Jordan Smith was the first of these players, but he does actually come up quite often as one of my main selections because I do know Jordan personally, and at the same time, he is a player that clearly has the world of ability, but it's just about getting it right for those 4 rounds. Now, a lot of Jordan's play, when he's playing his best golf, it's all about his tempo. He's very, very smooth player, very smooth tempoed swing, and the problem is that when he gets into the 3rd or 4th round, there's a tiny bit of pressure. I don't know if he just seems to tense up or something, but he loses his rhythm. and then ultimately hasn't managed to close out a victory yet on the DP World Tour. So he is becoming a little bit short at the moment. He's 18 to 1 to win this week, and I would love to see him get his victory. Don't get me wrong, but I can let him go at that price. Yannick Paul is another one. Again, this is a course where it's dominated by good wedge play, good wedge play, good iron play. Yannick Paul obviously ticks all of those boxes, but he did let us down a little bit last week in the Singapore Open. He'd had 4 weeks off. He said that he was ready to come out and kick on with this season after starting quite well, but it didn't quite go to plan. But he was second in this last year, and perhaps he just needed that event to get him right. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go close. But again, he is another player that at 20 is probably a little bit too short, and I just got to let him go, even though it would be a real pain if he went on and won this week. Rasmus Højgaard is the player that I think the course just sets up for really well. I think no matter what happens this week, Rasmus will be in the top 15 or top 20. And then the final player is Richard Mansell, another player that I know quite well. Personally, played with Richard a few times as well on some smaller tours, but he keeps obviously putting in a bad round, and it really is starting to become a bit of a worry in his game. He's been in contention more than one occasion now and not quite managing to get the job done. Again, he's another that will definitely be winning on tour. It's just a case about timing it right with Richard Mansell. Looking ahead, though, for Richard Mansell, I do think in June, where we have the Scandinavian Open, that is an event where I think Richard Mansell is going to go really well. And so I'm actually going to keep him on side for the Scandinavian Mixed Open. You may want to jot that down. Okay, so looking ahead to this week's selections, though, I have come down on 2 for you here. But again, I've got 4 selections in total. But if you'd like those, you do need to go over and join the group chat using the link in the description below this video. Over 400 members, and you are welcome to join us, of course. Okay, so looking ahead to this week, though, I have managed to get 2 selections for you for this week's event. And my strongest selection is a player who I haven't had in mind for a little while, but he's starting to slowly show a little bit of form, and that's Guido Migliozzi, each way at 55 to 1. Elaborates are giving you 7 places and 5th of the odds this week, and they are the terms that I'm using for this week's event. I think Guido's just about starting to come back to form at the right time, and this sort of course could just be perfect for him as well. He's a really good ball striker, very good with his irons, and if he can just have his short game on point this week, I think a return to form is just imminent for Guido Migliozzi. I think he ticks a lot of the boxes here. And I just think steadily finding his form, this is the sort of course that he could actually go really, really well at. What I would say about Guido, though, is I would like to see him start well in the first or second rounds. Of course, we want him to make the cut, but we do need to see a decent round from Guido in the opening 2 rounds. But I do think that will set him up really nicely then for a strong finish over the weekend. He had a top 20 finish in the Singapore last week. That obviously gives him something to build on. And if he can reproduce any of his old decent form, then 55 to 1 is actually quite a discredit to his ability. I know he's been a little bit out of form in the last year or so, but he is coming back to form. And at 55 to 1 each way, I think you can just give yourself a little bit of that at 7 places in a field like this. At the top of the field, from 14 to 1 to 22, 25 to 1, there's about 15 or 20 players that are very tightly matched. Raz Højgaard, Yannick Paul, Jordan Smith. You've got your Ewan Ferguson's, really good solid iron players. But again, a few of these, to be fair to them, they're not doing much winning, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see them go close now. However, they are getting rather short in the betting, and I think the one to side with here for selection number 2 is going to be Sebastian Soderberg at 28 to 1 each way. Probably got one of the best swings on tour, actually. Sebastian Soderberg hasn't won for a fair while now, although he did win back in 2019. He won the Amiga European Masters at a very similar course to this. So things like that actually do set up quite well for him this week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go that far away. He is actually slowly climbing the world rankings as well now. He's up to 143, looks very comfortable where he is. So I think that I think it's definitely fair to assume that DP World Tour title number 2 isn't going to be too far away. I would have perhaps liked a little bit more value in Sebastian Soderberg at 28 to 1, even though he's a very, very good player. But I couldn't leave him out. He's got all of the credentials for me this week. He's got a lot of patience. He's growing in the game as well. Very, very good with his irons and very, very good with his wedge play too, and seemingly becoming quite a consistent sort of player. So I think at 28 to 1 each way, you can afford to have a piece of Sebastian Soderberg. He's had 2 top 20s, 3 top 10s already this season. The 28 to 1, again, each way, probably not the biggest value, but I do really think that he's going to have a very solid chance here outside of the main group of players at the top of the market. Okay, so Guido Migliozzi at 55 to 1 each way, selection number 1. Selection number 2 is Sebastian Soderberg at 28 to 1 each way. So they're the 2 selections for you. Again, if you'd like to go over and join my group chat, there is a link in the description below. Good luck with your bets this week, and I'll see you all again next week.